Hi there, YouTube. Are you ready for Halloween? Obviously, I am. So, you know how Jehovah's Witnesses like to redefine certain words and imbue them with this special meaning that only Jehovah's Witnesses understand? It's a cult thing. They all do it. Anyway, there are many words that have different and special meaning to Jehovah's Witnesses, and you've heard many of them in my videos already. Apostate, disfellowshipped, integrity, unity, loyal, pioneer. Well, today we're going to talk about another one. Demonized. Now, in the normal world, to demonize means to portray someone or something as wicked and threatening and scary, right? But if you're Jehovah's Witness, you know that being demonized is something much more, something absurdly terrifying. It means that something is basically possessed by the devil or spirits of some type. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that demons can attach themselves to or inhabit all sorts of mundane items, kind of like bed bugs do or something. If a brother or sister bought something at a yard sale or whatever, and it happened to contain a demon, then that person would start having weird things happen around their house, like lights turning on and off by themselves, or they'd start hearing noises in the house, or they'd start having nightmares or accidents. And in the Jehovah's Witness world, the only way to fight a demon is to literally shout, Jehovah. And of course, even if you do that, those demons are pesky. They'll keep coming back until you figure out which item they are attached to and then destroy it. From an early age, we heard these tales of demonic activity that were told in all seriousness by the adults in our lives. My aunt told this story about having a necklace that some worldly person gave to her, and she threw it away, and it screamed when she threw it away. Everyday objects like records, jewelry, statues, vacuum cleaners, whatever, books, purchased at yard sales or secondhand or given as gifts by worldly people. These plain items caused demonic nightmares in which the unlucky dreamer was unable to breathe or speak and was forced to endure terror or even rape by demons. Now, I will say that nightmares are pretty common among Jehovah's Witnesses because dreams are a way for our bodies to naturally deal with anxieties and fears, and the Watchtower Society happens to stoke and cultivate fear and anxiety in its followers. It's a means of control. So, in addition to that, conditions like night terrors and sleep paralysis are also fairly common, and when those things are treated as paranormal events and signify that a person is spiritually weak or has been singled out by Satan the devil himself, instead of as the medical issues that they are, well, they don't tend to improve. I remember hearing tales of children who got demonized and developed these guttural voices and superhuman strength, and who were then controlled by the devil. One of my aunts used to tell a story about how when she was in school, some kid stole her coat, and how she didn't want it back because it could have been demonized by the thief. So she was cold all winter, but she endured it because of her faith in Jehovah. Because, you know, endurance, especially the unnecessary kind, is an especially revered quality in a Jehovah's Witness. So many things in our lives were or could be demonized, and contact with a demonized object or person could open us up to being demonized as well. So we were cautioned against reading certain books, watching certain movies, or even simply having an open mind. I remember hearing talks from the platform about how independent thinking was dangerous, and any emptying of the mind or idleness was considered tantamount to inviting the devil in and asking him to set a spell. Yes, I know exactly how ridiculous this is, but it was absolutely terrifying as a kid growing up. So in the 1980s and the early 90s, demon mania was all the rage. There were certain sisters who just loved to get in a car group out in service and tell the latest demon stories. And of course, it scared all the kids shitless, like we needed anything else to have nightmares about after the illustrations in the Bible story book. Let's not even talk about the Revelation book. So when I was a kid, we had a light fixture upstairs in our house that would, I guess it would just cut off if it got too hot and it had been left on too long, and then it would cut back on once it had cooled down if the switch was still up. And this meant that sometimes it would randomly come on in the middle of the night. Well, okay, so the first time this happened, my mom was convinced that somebody was in the house. But after we crept up the stairs with a steak knife, and then she sent me down the hall alone, without the steak knife, of course, to look to see if anybody was there, because she said a criminal would be less likely to hurt a little kid. Yeah. Well, we found nothing, obviously, so she concluded that it must be demons. But we had no idea what could have brought them in the house, so my mom thought it might have been my sister because she wore black t-shirts and black Reeboks, but she didn't even live with us anymore by that point, so she couldn't really be sure. But strangely, as many times as my mother claimed to feel something was demonized, she rarely actually erupted into Jehovah shouting, so I don't know. Now, when I was a teenager, I came home from school one day to find out that she had basically cleaned out my room and threw everything out into the shed in the yard and claimed that it was demonized. Now, she based all this on the fact that she didn't feel like she could pray. Okay. Now, I pointed out that she had simply taken all the things that I had ever chosen for myself out of the house, and of course she felt better because she'd actually done something. It wouldn't matter what she'd done. She could have gone and made a casserole and she would have still felt better. Anyway, probably the most common Jehovah's Witness demon stories were about the Smurfs. Why Smurfs? Why not Iron Man? Iron Man is cool. I don't know. The story that really was going the rounds all the time was about a little kid who had Smurf decor in his room. He had Smurf sheets and Smurf curtains. Well, the story goes that one night while this kid's asleep, the Smurfs in his room all came to life and they hurt him somehow. Some people said that they beat him up. I always heard that they were biting him, but whatever. So when the parents come to check on the little kid, they had to fight these Smurfs and rescue the kid. I also heard this story told where the parents just saw the Smurfs moving around on the sheets and the curtains, like the printed pictures were moving, and that the kid had bite marks all over him. Anyway, they take the kid out, they lock the door, as if something that could animate pictures printed onto a piece of fabric couldn't figure out an interior door lock, but whatever. The next day, the elders came over and they prayed in the room and took out all the Smurf stuff and they burned it in the backyard, and voila, no more demons. Yeah. So the other very, very popular Smurf story involved a stuffed Smurf doll that some kid brought to the Kingdom Hall. And in the middle of the meeting, the doll got up, ran down the central aisle of the Kingdom Hall screaming, "Fuck this shit," or something like that. Now, I will have to say that I kind of thought the Smurf had the right idea there. Yeah. I also heard a story about a sister who purchased a vacuum cleaner at a yard sale, and when she got it home, it kept turning itself on. And even when she unplugged it, it would just come on and start zooming around the living room. So she took it and locked it in the trunk of her car and called the elders. And then when they opened the trunk to look at it, it was a dirt devil, by the way. They supposedly set it on fire or something. I don't know. Just remember that these stories were told with terror and with so much gravitas by adults. There are also a lot of variations about a story about a brother who once went to see a horror movie, and then when it was over, he was stuck to the chair and he couldn't get up. And so he had to have the elders come and pray over him before he could actually get out of the chair. Now, an interesting twist on this, my sister once dated a pioneer dude who told us this story as if it had happened to him. Now, I forget what movie it was that he supposedly went to see, but he and my sister used to rent horror movies from Blockbuster all the time. So obviously he didn't learn anything from it, if it were true. Certainly didn't stop him from doing it again multiple times, among other things. Anyway, he also added to this story that when he looked at himself in the bathroom mirror after that experience, he saw a demon looking back at him. I got nothing. Now, there were also lots of stories about demonized appliances. There was once a used TV, a story about a used TV that his sister bought, and it kept turning itself on and off. And eventually, it just started screaming at her all the time. So she called the elders to help her deal with it. And then when they got there and started praying to Jehovah, the TV actually flung itself out of a window and smashed itself to pieces. Yeah, because that's likely. There are also some stories going around about magic 8-balls and Ouija boards. Of course, Ouija boards. So supposedly there was a lady had bought a Ouija board after being told by her Jehovah's Witness Bible stalker, to actually steal a phrase from our friend Vinny, that Ouija boards were demonized. She decided that she was going to take it down and throw it in the dumpster. But when she got back to her apartment, it was there again. So she did this a couple more times and kept coming back to her apartment to find it back on the table. So she went and threw it off a bridge, and much like my aunt's demonized necklace, it just screamed all the way down. Ah! It's ridiculous. Like, if you threw it in the dumpster and it came back, I guess Ouija boards can't swim, right? Or else she threw it off a bridge into traffic. I don't really know. Maybe it got run over by a Mack truck. Ah! This stuff is so silly. It's not even scary at all. Seriously, think about it. If demons were real, which they aren't, by the way, they never did anything threatening, really, in these stories. They did stupid stuff. Like, I mean, my kid can make vomiting noises and flip light switches. Big freaking deal. But we were so afraid of them. We were afraid of the dumbest shit. Movies and TV shows and books and toys and crosses and churches and angel figurines. I mean, if you think about it, the demons were not only ineffectual, they were dumb as a box of doorknobs. I mean, if you were a demon and you knew that you could be completely overpowered by the very utterance of the word Jehovah, why in the world would you want to antagonize people who said that word like 300 times a day? And if your objective was to get people away from the witnesses, which is the witnesses' claim, by the way, then wouldn't the kind of behavior described in these stories have the opposite effect? They also said that Satan or the demons couldn't read your mind, but they were listening to everything that you said. So I used to think, like, what if you talk in your sleep? So I was always terrified that something awful would happen to me because I accidentally said the wrong thing at some point. And I've never had a filter really, so I'm always saying the wrong thing. My mom used to say that we should never talk about the things we were most afraid of out loud because then Satan could use them against us. It's just stupid. So I remember one time, several years, like many years actually, after I had been disfellowshipped, I was married to my first husband, and it was near the end of our ill-fated relationship, but I had just unfortunately had a miscarriage, and my mother came to visit me. Now, sometime before this visit, I had picked up an art print somewhere. It was a picture of an angel that was holding a baby, and it was a sweet picture, and I liked it, and it was hanging in my bathroom, right? So my mother comes and goes to use the bathroom and starts freaking out, sobbing. I mean, acting like a total lunatic. So she tells me that the angel in the picture is taking the babies away, and that is why I had a miscarriage. I got nothing. But of course, we know, because we are mature and reasonable adults, that none of this crap is true. None of it's real. And you know how I know? Because right after I left the witnesses, I got really tired of being terrified all the time. And I decided that if everybody was going to condemn me and they were going to say that I was a witch and accuse me of being possessed because I had migraines, I mean, that's a long story. But anyway, I decided, fine, you want me, Satan? Come get me. So I just decided to systematically do everything that I had been told would get me demonized. So I wanted to find out what it was really about. So I went out and I rented all the movies. The Exorcist, The Shining, Poltergeist. And I settled in for a good long binge watch. And man, was that a disappointment. They weren't scary. They weren't scary at all. They were stupid. They were goofy. So I read Stephen King books. Some of that was quite scary. And I actually, in the process of that, discovered one of my favorite authors of all time. Not because of the horror angle, but because he's just an incredible writer. Read The Stand. If you haven't read it, oh my God. I went and played Dungeons and Dragons. I bought a cross necklace. And I even talked to a therapist about my biggest fears out loud. And you know what happened? Nothing. Zilch, nada, nunca, not so much as a single unexplained vomiting noise or electrical malfunction. My bed never even so much as twitched. Damn it. Sorry guys, it's all bullshit. I can't really believe that I actually believed in it ever. So, as a final thought for you in preparation for Halloween, here is a short list of things that are scarier than demons. Ready? Here we go. American politics. Alligators. Hand, foot, and mouth disease. The dentist office. The two-witness rule. Botulism. Tornadoes. And that noise that a small child makes right before they projectile vomit in your bed in the middle of the night. That's way scarier than demons. Anyway, I've got my costumes ready. The kids are stoked about trick-or-treating and carving pumpkins and putting out decorations this weekend and eating candy. Oh, yeah. So, go have fun, y'all. Have a happy and safe holiday. Happy Halloween. And if you happen to be American, please vote. Please, please, just vote.